it's trying times, but you know, we can do all we can do right now is, you know, continue to fight, continue to have these conversations, and try to, you know, spark any change that we can in this world. And that's what we're going to do here on Double M Live, because we have an exciting show, an exciting guest. Oh man, quick story, Mike Nice. You know, you and I, we've been watching Celtics for a long time.
Long time.
One thing that got us close is not only do we watch basketball, new basketball, but I remember talking to you when I first met you. I was like, oh, this guy's he's also a Celtics historian. He actually, you know, I can talk about the old Celtics in the 80s that we weren't alive for, and Mike would know what we were talking about. And funny story, around like 2005, 2006, you know, Celtics weren't great. They were a bad team, but I would have to go to sleep early. You know, I had school the next day. I was like in middle school. I had to go to sleep early. But what I would do is when the Celtics would go on those road trips, when they start playing at 10 o'clock, I stay up, but I had the radio on. You know, I'll keep the radio on in the background, and then I would hear this distinct voice sometimes. Quack, quack. I would hear this quack, quack. I'm like, what? Who is this man? the most exciting broadcaster with the Celtics, and he made me enjoy the game more. So, Mike Nice, can you introduce us who we got on the show?
Woo! Special guests. You know, I told people before we had a special guest loading up. So, you know, let me read off this resume of this great man right here. We're talking about a man who spent 11 years in the NBA. 8 of those years spent with our Boston Celtics. 2-time NBA champion, winning the championship with the Celtics in 1981 and 1984. And he also earned the finals MVP of that 1981 championship. He's currently the Celtics radio color analyst alongside Sean Grandy with 985 The Sports Hub. And he's also host of the Cedric Maxwell podcast alongside our boy, shout out to Josue Pavone, shout out to Josue with CLNS Media Network. We are proud, honored to introduce here on Double M Live, Mr. Cedric Maxwell. Cedric Maxwell.
Gentlemen,
how are you?
Gentlemen, it is absolutely a pleasure to be with you guys today. You know, you talked about what happened in Minnesota and your concerns. And, you know, I know we're just going to dig into all that. And, you know, just feel free to ask me whatever you want. And, you know, as Josue and I love to say, you know, we're going to keep it on 100 right now. That's all we're going to do. We're going to keep it on 100 and tell it the way we feel. We're not going to sugarcoat it. And, you know, if you don't like it, you can always turn us off. But, you know, you're going to get more information by listening to the three of us dissect and just go into what has been going on in this country and how people of color have felt.
Yeah, right, man. Absolutely. Real quick, you know, once again, this is Double M Live. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. We are live right now with Max here on Double M. And like he said, we're going to dive into a lot because there's feelings that I have, that Marv has, that Max has. We want to get into it all for sure, but we also want to hear from you guys. So make sure you drop your thoughts and feelings in that comment section for sure, because we are live right now.
All right. Thanks. Thank you, guys. I mean, by now, we all know what happened. Derek Chauvin was guilty of all counts for the murder of George Floyd. And, you know, I think we all remembered our feelings when we first saw that video around last year and how we felt about it. And, you know, come a year later, that event shocked the world. And we actually saw the whole world come together and march against this police brutality. That's something that we were screaming for years. And people were finally able to open their eyes and see what's happening. So I just want to get everyone's thoughts really on how you felt once you heard guilty on all counts for Derek Chauvin.
You know, I think I've been going back and forth, and, you know, I go with Rodney King, listening to that verdict, what happened there. And that was so many years ago, but Rodney King getting beat by the police officers and it actually being on tape, and they were acquitted. You know, you go back to even more so what was so divisive, and you guys, I'm not sure how old you were or you were even around during the OJ verdict. And it was one of those things that polarized people of color and people who are non-color about, the verdict. Yesterday, to me, whatever reason, I wasn't nervous about it because I think it's a new day and it's a new time. And I love what the defense lawyer said. He said, you know what? I don't have to tell you anything. See this without your own eyes. Don't believe the words, but look at your eyes and what you see. And clearly you could see that this man was leaning down on his neck. And even to the point where I think it was really dramatic to me when they said that Chauvin really his toe came off the ground when he was kneeling. And that means that all his weight was on Floyd's neck. And by doing that, any person with any kind of common sense is going to say, man, this is what happened. And then you had the young lady who taped it all and the brothers who were sitting there saying, get off him, you're killing him. And the smirk that he had on his face, that to me, that was just a look of the devil. That was just evil. And it had nothing else to do with black, white. It was just this person. I don't know, black, white, or whatever, but this person was evil. And his intent was only to hurt this man. I'm sure he didn't know he was going to kill him, but what he did ended up killing this man. And I think that was just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, while this whole trial's been going on, obviously it's in the news constantly, it's on social media constantly, but at the same time, me personally, I've always, remained with the idea of, this trial shouldn't even be going on this long. I think I read on CNN that, the jury took 2 days and about 10 hours each day to deliberate and come up with, the verdict and whatnot. But in my mind, you have a video camera that recorded a man being murdered in the street. I don't know how long you needed to stay in trial for. I know the justice system has to play out and whatnot, but I've always said this shouldn't even take this long to decide what should happen to Derek Chauvin, because we've all seen it. The world has seen it. In today's day and age with social media, that video spread like a wildfire when it first came out. So, even with all that being said, it's just crazy to think about the fact that nobody fully felt confident that justice would be served. And, you listed off things that have gone on throughout the past with, OJ and Rodney King and different cases of there's never sometimes a feeling of justice really being served. But here's a time where we can state that, okay, the justice system actually played in our favor for once, because we usually don't see it play out in our favor. So it was really shocking to see.
I think one of the things that, and I just want to jump in, one of the things that I've seen over the years is talking to, we've all had friends who are white, and we talk about the police system, policing. And one thing we talk about is they're like, well, when you see the police, how do you tell your son or daughter to act when they're around the police? Well, I tell them to, remain calm, keep the hands on the steering wheel, and, officer, how can I help you? Well, I told them I teach my son just the opposite. I teach my son the way I would do it. And what I do is if I'm stopped by the police, I essentially put both my hands out, palms so he can see my hands, and say, and he asked me, so why do you have your hands out? I said, so I don't want there to be any mistakes. Here are both my hands. Unless I'm an octopus, that's the only way right now I can hurt you. So here are my palms. I said, you don't do that when you see the police. What you say is, how can I help you, officer? People of color, we've been so, I guess,
traumatized.
Yeah, traumatized would be the word, that we act completely different. When we see a blue light, the word that comes to our mind is the thing that comes to our mind is, oh shit. Oh shit. There's some shit about to happen right now. We don't think like, okay, anything else other than that. And I think that's just really one of the things that, we see as people of color.
Yeah. Like that specifically being pulled over and what that does to us. Mike, you patted your chest, your heart starts beating. I had to physically remove any songs on my library that had police sirens in it, because it made me uncomfortable while driving. Anytime I heard any type of police siren, I would lose it. I had to remove that away from my library. That's something that, white people never have to even think about. My buddy yesterday just got pulled over. He FaceTimed me. Why are you FaceTiming? He's FaceTiming me just in case something could happen. These are the things that we have to do when we are being around police. Mm-hmm. The other day, I started thinking to myself, if I'm in certain situations, the last thing I'm thinking in my mind is calling 911, even if I'm the victim. Mm-hmm. Even if I feel like I'm the victim, I'm not calling 911 due to the fact that I could get killed, or I could be put in a situation due to the color of my skin. And when you talk to white people about that and you talk about privilege, these are the things that they need to start understanding. Like, we're going through a whole different type of realm when it comes to.
They cannot understand that. You cannot walk in another man's shoes. If you are not Black, you can't understand how those feelings swell up in you. You can sympathize, you can empathize, right. You can do all these other things, but you can't get a true understanding unless you are a person of color. And it's nothing to do with like slapping at people who are white, because there are people who are white who would really want to help you, but to truly understand what it's like is impossible unless you're a person of color.
So I definitely want to ask you a question, Max, because again, it's a privilege to have you on the show with us. And, as we're all three of us here, Black men sitting here talking about these same feelings that we all have, I think a feeling that comes across some people sometimes where they feel as if, celebrities or athletes, people in the limelight, because they're at that level, they probably don't experience that same feeling that common folk might experience when it comes to dealing with police. But at the end of the day, we're all Black men that share the same feelings and thoughts and sentiments when it comes to these different type of situations. So I really want you to speak on how it's perceived sometimes for someone like you who you've been at the top. You play for one of the most prominent franchises in all the NBA and whatnot. But at the end of the day, you are still a Black man, just like myself, just like Marv.
Absolutely. I think that people think that athletes, and it's different because you're an athlete. There are things that you don't go through because you are famous. Some of the stuff, like when I first moved to Boston, it's like, don't go to South Boston because you're Black and there can't be Black people in South Boston. Well, being an athlete, some of these things you're insulated from. But as you guys are saying, most people of color and most athletes and most famous athletes understand that at the end of the day, I'm just a Black man. I'm a Black man or a Black woman. And if you strip that away, then you see that everybody essentially kind of in the same boat. Now, there are privileges that you get when you're famous. I mean, I was stopped on Memorial Drive, must have been about 3 years ago, driving with Sean Grandy at 1 o'clock in the morning, coming back from Hanscom. The team plane had landed. I was dropping him off at his apartment over in Cambridge. And as I'm coming down Memorial Drive, a police officer comes behind me, a statey. And he comes up, puts his lights on, heart starts beating. Sean's on the other side, comes to my window, license and registration. I said, well, my license are in the trunk. So he said, you need to get them. So I get out, I go open the trunk. Now, essentially, this police officer's hand is on his gun. Like, what's about to happen? So I go in the trunk, I get my license, I give him my license. He looks at my license. He goes, Max, that's you? Oh man, I'm sorry I stopped you, man. My bad. I'm sorry I stopped you. Go on. So there are privileges that you get that normal black people, black folks, as you say, don't get because you have some fame. But you also have to realize, again, like you guys were saying, at the end of the day, at the very end of the day, you are no different than that brother or sister that just got stopped or pulled over. And you're going to be treated like that. And I think OJ saw that when he, OJ for a while wasn't, he, they looked at him as like he was non-black until everything happened. Then OJ became that nigga. That's who he became. That nigga. That's who he was. And man, it just the look on people's faces, and it was so strange. Must have been about 15 years ago. I was in the Bahamas. And I am going to get on a boat with my girlfriend, and we're walking down. There's some people, and she said, "He spoke to you," and I was like, "Who?" And I turned around, and she said, "OJ." He said, "Hey, Max, how you doing? What's going on, man?" And it was a white girl, and it just conjured all this stuff up in my mind. It was just so but again, this is somebody I'd seen. And, OJ, very famous, and, for whatever the right reasons or the wrong reasons, you are a target. You are a target, especially when you're famous and you fall off that pedestal. You are a target.
Yeah, definitely. That's a hilarious story about OJ, but not surprising at all. I want to bring it back to the trial of yesterday, and a lot of people are going on saying justice was served, due to the fact that Chauvin is going to jail for all 3 counts. I don't see it fully as justice. I know a lot of people also using the word accountability. Finally we're holding police accountable, but it's definitely a churn in the right direction, right? We saw it from 30 years ago. You brought up Rodney King with a camcorder that was recording everything like that. 30 years before that, we're talking about Emmett Till, who the family is still trying to get justice till this day. And we've seen many cases throughout those 60 years that there hasn't been anything done, or the police have not been accountable. And due to them not being accountable, this is the reason why you said there was a smirk on Chauvin's face. There's a reason why they feel like they can do this and get away with it. Now, with this case being one of the biggest cases out there right now, I feel like now here's the churn that we're heading into, where we're starting to put police on notice and saying this is unacceptable. It's taking years.
Do we really feel like this is a turn? Do we really feel that way?
Nah.
I mean, that's I think most black people do. Do we really feel like the light switch just turned on?
Oh, no. That definitely not saying that.
We don't feel that way. Mike, do you feel that way?
Nah, not. I mean, it was nice to see, but honestly, my internal, real deep thoughts and feelings, like I still have skepticism when I think about the justice system in this country.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I think the justice system was built against us. It wasn't built for us. What I'm saying is accountability now, where you say, okay, you put this person on a pedestal and say, obviously Chauvin was the most outlandish one, where there couldn't be an excuse for it. And we're going to still see areas where cops will kill and maybe not get that justice that is served. But what I'm saying, a churn is it's opened eyes. It's opened eyes. Now we're seeing even the whole Black Lives Matter movement that's happened this year has opened eyes.
That is the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing, that it has opened people's eyes. That 9 minutes, I want to say 9 minutes and 28 seconds, opened white people's eyes.
Yes.
And they said, no, police aren't like that. They don't do this. This is what they saw with that 9 minutes and 28 seconds. Pull the curtain back and reveal something that was shocking and appalling to white people. There were more white people. There was just as many white people who were marching during Black Lives Matter as people of color. And that's the one change that I definitely see. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. The light switch hasn't been on, isn't just clicked on, but there is now an awareness. And that's the progress I think that we want to see. The fact that people now can identify what just happened. And now we can see if there's going to be some more movement.
Big time. I mean, this from George Floyd on, everything that took place from then, I think, a light has shined brightly on, the injustices that have been taking place. And I know you got athletes like Colin Kaepernick who tried to speak on all of this years ago. And, people just kind of was like, yeah, Colin Kaepernick, NFL wasn't trying to hear his excuses for kneeling. You had all that. But now we're at a place where, you see different teams, release statements after the verdict was read, saying, we stand with, the fight against, police brutality and all. You have different teams and organizations coming out. And this is a far cry from years ago. Teams weren't really coming out with those kind of statements. Teams weren't really making stances. Owners, managers, coaches, players, they weren't really making them statements. How do you feel? I mean, being someone who was a player and was an athlete, how do you see that change as gone on with different sports and different leagues and like I said, teams, organizations making statements? How do you feel that that's transitioned over throughout the years?
I think players have taken and are doing, they're more accountable to other people of color. I think you look at Jaylen Brown this year, driving from Boston all the way to Atlanta to be in the middle of this protest. I just feel that we have the platform is there. And I think the ironic part to me about the whole thing about Chauvin was the fact that here he was kneeling on somebody's neck, and then Kaepernick was kneeling for a peaceful solution.
Yep.
It's just the irony in those two. One guy took a knee to kill somebody, another guy took a knee to go in peace, and people they screamed and essentially got Kaepernick booted out of the NFL. Most teams wouldn't take it. They wouldn't touch him because he was poisoned. He was poison to your team because most of the people who are in these arenas were white. And I remember seeing a broadcaster talk to this fan was talking to a broadcaster and said, when those players started kneeling down and during the national anthem, I just really gave them hell. I was screaming and yelling at them. And the broadcaster said, wait a minute, well, hold on a minute. Those players were kneeling silently during the national anthem, and you were screaming and yelling during the national anthem. Right. And the guy would go, no, I didn't know. No, he said, that's the difference. This was a silent protest. And because of that, this is what America is for. America is basically, my father was in Vietnam. My father fought in the war, and he fought for people to be able to protest and say what they want to do without infringing on somebody else's benefits or doing anything else just to stab or knock somebody else down. If I am in a corner by myself and I am protesting with my knee to ground, eyes closed, who am I hurting? Who the hell am I hurting? There was a guy in the NBA. His name was Mahmoud.
Yeah.
And Mahmoud was a guy who played for Denver. And his name was Chris Jackson before he took his Muslim name. And I think it was Mahmoud Muhammad. And Mahmoud, before a game, he would stand there and essentially start praying during the national anthem. And man, people gave him more hell about what he did during that time. Nothing, he wasn't like jumping up and down, bringing attention to him. He just silently prayed. And people in the United States at that time, they weren't having that. That was a non-starter. The NBA got behind. They didn't want him to do it. And that's the difference now that you guys are talking about, and how leagues now that you hear Roger Goodell go and say, well, we were wrong when it came to Kaepernick. We were wrong when it came to what he did, to him kneeling, and what our players were doing. And then you had Donald Trump, who said, turn around and just made it. He put the spice to it when he said, get that son of a bitch off the field.
Right.
That, to me, that just inflamed everything else.
One thing Mike and I were always battling when teams would come out with these messages, and all of a sudden you see Starbucks come out with a message, and Target and Walmart's coming out with a message, and then everyone's going. It was really easy, especially this past summer, to join the wave per se. It was really easy to say we stand with Black Lives Matter and we stand with our players and such. Like Roger Goodell said, he was wrong about Colin Kaepernick. Okay, but where's Colin Kaepernick now? If you were wrong about him, you guys kicked him out the league. Why is he not in the league? So I guess I'm still battling with this now, is understanding awareness to action from these corporations. Where do we go from awareness to action? Okay, you see what we've been talking about, but what can we do about it? Especially the ones who have the power to actually try to promote more change than just saying, okay, we see what happened and we're on that side.
Financially, you have to do it that way, but both of you guys remember when wasn't it two gentlemen that went to Starbucks to meet a friend there, and they were just sitting at Starbucks and they arrested them for waiting for their friend to come in. So I mean, we can go down the line. There was a thing that happened to me, and this is when I was, so this had to be over 50 years ago. We were in South Carolina. My family and I took a trip every year, and we went to Myrtle Beach. Myrtle Beach, they have a beach called Atlantic Beach, which was the Black Beach. At Atlantic Beach, there was literally a chain link fence that went from the top of the beach all the way out, probably as long, going into the ocean, as long as the football field. So blacks couldn't get in white water. in white water. And the irony of this was the fact that was some 60 years ago. And then fast forward, maybe 40 years later, 45 years later, my son was one of the first black lifeguards in Myrtle Beach. So that's just how things have that full circle thing that we're kind of talking about right now, how things have happened, how things have changed. And the biggest thing is that the financial link here. If black people, the people of color, went out and stopped supporting some of these businesses that they felt were prejudiced, the black dollar is amazing. It is $1 trillion that black people spend on all these different things. If they went out and put their money together in a power vacuum, that is what's going to change corporate America. Not just the lip service, but when we put our money together and we target certain businesses, that's when we're going to see a real change.
Everything you're saying is 100% facts, Max. Like I agree with everything you're saying. But I want to switch gears a little bit because, as we sit here and, talk about the verdict and, accountability and finally some kind of justice being served, a few days ago, we have another shooting take place where Dante Wright is shot by a police officer who, we saw the video screaming out taser, taser, but accidentally goes for her gun, shoots him. He ends up driving off and then dying later on. I think, in that situation, rest in peace to Dante Wright, praise to his family and friends for sure. But I think that opens up another big conversation, a conversation that has continued to go on over and over again. Something about law enforcement in this country is just off. And the way social media works now, you can get news and find out what's happening in England and Canada and other countries around the world. You get news about different things happening in countries all across the world. I personally never see or come across on social media random shootings like this taking place in Canada or in England or in other countries. I never hear it, but it's always seeming to happen on United States soil. So it just opens up a bigger question and conversation of something about law enforcement. I remember seeing a comment from Chris Rock, and I tell people this all the time, this comment I saw from Chris Rock talking about there's certain jobs in this world that you can't really screw up at. A pilot of an airplane, that's a job where if you screw up as a pilot, it's going to have very bad consequences. And a police officer needs to be held at that same kind of pedestal where if you screw up as a police officer, it's going to probably have some bad consequences. And these are consequences that we've seen continuously play out over and over and over again in history. So, I just want to open up that conversation of how can a police officer who's trained accidentally go for their gun instead of a taser, and something has to be off with training, and something has to be off there. I don't know what it is.
Or it's not accidental.
Or it's not accidental, that too as well.
This is where we will probably agree to disagree. I do believe it was an accident. But it was an accident which cost that young man his life. There were a lot of bad things that happened. You could clearly hear this woman say, taser, taser. And she shoots. And she says, fuck, I shot him. So in my mind, there's no doubt that I thought that was an accident. Do I think she should be held accountable? Absolutely. For her actions of what happened. Another thing that happened in that whole situation was they stopped him for a license plate check, expired license or something like that, plate that was, and it was the same way with the gentleman who was in Atlanta that got killed at the Wendy's.
Yep.
The police had him, he fought, they had his license, and he's running away, and he grabs a guy's taser and he shoots back, and they shoot him and kill him. The point I'm trying to make is they had the information on both these people. If that young man was about to drive away in his car, they can go to his house and pick him up. They don't have to fight him. The guy at McDonald's, at Wendy's, when he got shot in the back, they had his license. Let him run. Go ahead and run away. Now, the thing that I see a lot is, this is my big feeling about this, is the tolerance or that police have for white people that they don't have for black people.
Exactly.
That's my thing, because I've seen, they have the tapes where white people are going up there. I saw this white guy had a knife, and he's going at the police, and they're backing away. They all got guns. They're back. They don't shoot him. They're backing away from him. A police officer finally has to hit him with a car, and then they tackle him and they throw him down. If that had been a person of color, somebody pulled out the knife and started coming towards them. They might have said the halt, but after that, it wasn't going to be anything else. They weren't running away. So those tapes, there was a guy just 2 or 3 days ago. It was a elderly white guy in a pickup truck. They were trying to stop him. He running into the police cars, trying to back over and all this stuff. Yep. You don't shoot. They have his license plates, and they go to his house and they pick him up. if that had been a person of color, we think and we know that would have been different. We think the same way when we think about the Capitol riot.
I was just gonna ask you about
When we
that
think
too.
about that, I was thinking about if that had been black people going up in
Bloodshed.
there,
They wouldn't have got close.
oh, we know. And just like Joe Biden said, we know if there had been people of color, this is the president talking, that they would have mowed some people down. They would have mowed them down. And then for people to look at that Capitol riot and try to say that was Antifa or people who were with them, when you can see the tape of the guys going in, they were white and it wasn't Antifa. So I think that's my spiel on it. The differences really in how police
handle
situations with people of color and people of not color. White people and black people. That's to me the big difference. I understand about the woman and she shot him. I feel bad for her. Hell, I feel bad for his family. And I know in my heart, I'm saying there's no way that this white woman who had been on the force for 20 some years wanted to come in here and all of a sudden just ruin her life. Her life is ruined. The young man's life, he's dead. So I know that she didn't do that, but there were so many things that happened in there that were mistakes on so many other people's parts.
Yeah, it's ridiculous how both sides get treated so differently. We can go down the list. Even the young girl I was talking about yesterday who got gunned down, her name was Ma'Khia Bryant. Rest in peace to her soul. She was in a fight. She had a knife. As soon as the cop got out of his car, in less than 2 seconds, he put 4 bullet holes in her.
Wow.
4 bullet holes in a young girl, a baby, 16. But we all know, like you just mentioned, so many scenarios where people are armed with guns, machine guns, rioting, wrestling with police officers. Death is never the answer.
We know if she had been a white girl, there'd been no way she would have got shot. That's what people of color get mad about. That we do that in our heart, that we know that she wouldn't have gotten shot.
Right.
But the thing about it, people of color are looked upon almost immediately as threats.
As a threat.
How many times have we been to a mall and you have people following you in the mall, think you're gonna steal something? Or how many times have you walked near a white woman or you see her getting in her car and the first thing you're walking towards her, first you hear the doors go click, click, click.
That same situation happened to me in high school. Walking with a group of friends, and we're all black, and we're walking past a white woman in her car, and we all heard loudly the clicks of her door, and we all looked at each other like, "Did you hear? I remember that happened to me in high school, and it's a true. We're automatically viewed as a threat. It doesn't matter what kind of job you have, where you're going. As soon as they see your skin as you're a black person, you're a threat. Doesn't matter the situation or circumstance. And I mean, that's just the world we live in and the fear that we have. You can't really. You go out. You can make a simple run to the grocery store to pick up a few things, and you walk in the grocery store. And the eyes that maybe look at you a certain way is because you're a threat. I'm a 6'4" black man. Marv's 6'3" black man. Like, we're tall guys. So like the feeling of you're looked at as a threat is definitely there for sure.
Like, thank you for adding an extra inch on me, Mike. even if I'm outside at night and I have a hoodie on and I see that I'm behind a white woman, I back up just so I don't get misconstrued of doing something bad, because I know they could view me as a threat. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the psychological thinking that we have sometimes, to the point that we have to try to act like we are not something that they're portraying us to be.
Well, I mean, there are people, I know sometimes, and black people don't have the market on people being prejudiced against them. We don't corner the market on that. But I know sometimes people who are Jewish say that, that people are prejudiced against me because I'm Jewish. Well, they have to find out that you're Jewish first. They have to find that out. But as a person of color, when you walk in, your skin leads you in. Your skin leads you in the door, and already you are treated differently and looked at as different because of the color of your skin. And you guys should say 6'3", 6'4", whatever you guys might be. Try to be 6'8", about 290 pounds walking in. You think that I'm not a threat when I walk through that door, and I could be and be, unless I'm dressed in one of them suits that I have. It's like, okay, well, he's not a threat because he's a well-dressed black man, or whatever it might be. But, like I said, a hoodie is an indictment right now for, you doing something bad. And, we must say this too. All black people, there's some like bad white people. There's some bad black people that we know that, you said, man, you were wrong doing that. You were wrong doing that. And we have to identify, and I think that's overall, we have to identify black and white, that people right now have to start treating each other better. And that's why I wanted to come on with you young men, because we have an age gap. But what I want to do is bring that thing together. So each one teaches one. You teach me, I teach you. And by forming that bond of older and black, and I remember reading this thing that at one time, and they were talking about that if a grown man walked towards young kids, the kids got nervous. Now it's just the opposite. If a bunch of kids walk towards a grown man, he gets nervous now. And that's just really how we've changed, and our cycle has changed. And us as the thing that I really hate, and I'm gonna say this is more like in your generation, it's just like rap lyrics to me. Sometimes it's just so offensive. If I understand the beat and you like the song, but rap lyrics to me sometimes are offensive. If I'm I was on a transit one day, catching the bus, Silver Line someplace, and I was going down to Dudley, and there was two brothers in the back, and they were just cussing their asses off, and there was an older black woman sitting near them, and I wanted to go and say, yo, my brother, could you respect this woman here? But I know if I go towards them, it's going to escalate. So some of these other things, I just don't, I don't like. It's like, for instance, how do you guys feel? I ask you guys a question. How do you feel when it comes to white people singing black lyrics of rap songs and using the word nigga?
You want to take that first, Mike?
We all been in a car. We all been walking down the street when you see people and you're going, what?
I mean, me personally, I've never really experienced in my personal life, like I know it's portrayed in movies and TV shows. I've never personally experienced a white person saying nigga to me or in my presence. I've never experienced that. Right. I mean, but I'm sure if I've heard it, it definitely make me feel some type of way. Absolutely, positively.
I've had two. Oh, it's my fault, Mike. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think I've had two different instances. I've had one where, like, if I'm at a concert.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I'm not a concert goer. I don't do concerts.
I'm not a concert, and we listen to rap, and then the white boy next to me bumping nigga this, nigga that. It's definitely an uncomfortable feeling. But I know it's not the place for me to pick a fight.
Yeah, but how do you feel when you hear white people just in a with those and say a Jay-Z concert when he's letting the N-word fly, and I've seen people at these concerts and they're just like, whatever he said, I'm following the leader.
I get it. I mean, I'm not a concert goer, so like I never been in that experience in situation.
It's a weird feeling.
But I can imagine it being weird. I agree
Because
with you, Marv.
I've also been in an instance where I wasn't at a concert and I was waiting for the school bus, and white kid was saying the N word, singing it, and there was a fight. So there's two different. It was two different instances.
Well, so some people of color got offended because he was singing that song. I mean, I was downtown Boston about 5 years ago, walking down the street, and there were two white guys on the other side of the street that were coming, and they were listening to some kind of rap music, and they were yelling, and they were saying, they were talking about the people singing the song. They're like, these niggas is bad. These niggas is bad. And on the other side of the street, there was a brother walking by, and he said, you need to watch your mouth. And the white boy, these two white boys, like, what you mean? What you mean? I don't know what happened to me, but I run across the street. I'm like, yeah, you need to watch your fucking mouth. And they were like, well, we've been to prison. You wouldn't say that shit in prison. I don't give a damn where you at. So that to me is just like things that just kind of get to me is some of the things that happen right now. I mean, you just, I mean, I'll ask you guys. This is another question I want to ask the younger group. Do you ever use the word? Do you ever use the word nigga?
I do.
Okay.
I do use it.
Okay. My brother?
See, so I was, the way I grew up being in the MECO program, going to school in Weston my whole life, it was just never a part of my vocabulary. Wow. And to this day, I got friends who use it, and that's, any of my friends use it. That's me personally, it's never been a part of my vocabulary growing up. So it's just not a word I use.
It has always been a part of my vocabulary. And I know we want to kill the word. Somebody say kill the word, but it's not necessarily the word, but sometimes to me it's the way you use the word. The way you use the word, it makes it different. Like if you see some of your boys and you say you use the word like I use the word, you see somebody that you ain't, man, oh my nigga, man, what's up, nigga? What's up? We go on with that. But then there's another one where that you'll see somebody say nigga, and you go, oh shit, something about to jump on. So that's what I'm saying is the way you use words sometimes to me are more toxic than anything else.
For sure. I mean the word nigga always gets very divisive and who should say it and how should it be said. And I've always used it as a word of endearment. We could talk about the Kyrie situation, right? Where Schroeder said nigga to Kyrie, and Kyrie flipped out. And I thought Kyrie was wrong for that. I mean, you've been in the NBA for how long? You've heard it all this time in your life. You have people in your family who have used it. If you don't want to use it due to your reasoning, that's perfectly okay. But to condemn someone else, I think that's where my issue lies.
I would never be mad at any of my friends or family members who use it. If they say it to me or something, I'm never turn to them. Well, because I don't say that word, you shouldn't say that word. Nah, I'm not like that. Like if part of your vocabulary, let it be. And usually people around me, like Marv said, they use it as a word of endearment. Like I don't take it in any negative type of way or anything. Just because I don't use it, I don't judge anybody else for using it.
It's kind of crazy that that I would be older, Marv would be in a certain, you would be in another way, and we just see the words, not using the words, using the words, and as Juan says, like to me, I think that most of the times I've ever used that word, it's been a term of endearment to somebody, to one of my boys, or something that happened, or, a joke somebody said, and man, that nigga's funny as hell, man, something like that. But it's not like I guess that's the big elephant, that's the big gorilla in the room. Just like things, just like as a broadcaster, I feel there's
I think we lost you a little bit with sound.
Okay, there's things I can say as a broadcaster. And one of them is like when we start talking about like KG. KG did something one time. He said he was on the airplane and he was arm wrestling with somebody. And he jumps up and he said he beats some arm wrestling and he said, "I'm the silverback in this motherfucker. I'm the silverback." And you're going, what? And you would think about it. I know my white friends couldn't say that.
No.
Couldn't say, "Man, he's a beast. He's a gorilla." You can't say that as a broadcaster. Whereas I could say that. I can use those words. It's just really strange. It's, when you're broadcasting, the things that you can say and the things you're scrutinized for, being black or being white. You have more latitude because you're black now than you do as a white broadcaster. Remember, there was Westbrook. You out of your cotton picking mind, and that guy got fired for that statement. And when he didn't necessarily mean anything by it, but it's like, but you think about all the incidents that have happened. You think about the young ladies that were kneeling down at the it was a high school game. I want to say it was in Kansas City or someplace like that, and and the guy goes, "Yeah, look at them niggas, they leaning that," and he was white. And then he comes back later on and said, "I'm really sorry, it was my blood sugar because I have diabetes." And so it's like, man, give me a real excuse, man. Come on, you meant to say that. Man up. Man up.
Right. I remember a scene. I actually posted it on my social media because it was such a sorry excuse. I'm so sorry.
Now, when I do a podcast, I always ask a question, and I want to ask you guys a question for my own stuff here. Give me your Mount Rushmore of sports. Ooh. I'm building this in your backyard, and you got 4 people. We're putting that Mount Rushmore in, and they can be of sports that you can pick out. And that you don't have to be wrong. They don't have to be all basketball players. Don't have to be, but they can be whoever you want in sports. Give me your 4 people.
Got you.
Go ahead.
Muhammad Ali.
Okay.
Michael Jordan. Tiger Woods. And damn.
I don't know who that is, and damn.
Oh, I got my list. If Mark,
I gotta put Serena Williams. Okay. But now I'm leaving Brady out.
Did you must have stolen mine, man. I had Serena, the greatest athlete of all times. All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go Jordan Brady. Jordan Brady was automatic for me. Okay. Serena definitely doesn't get the credit she deserves, but she's dominated the sport of tennis. So I definitely have to throw that up there. And
you're gonna be like, Mark, and damn.
No. I think when it comes to dominate, because I'm thinking of people who've dominated sports, and Tiger's dominated golf, Muhammad's dominated boxing, but I think Muhammad, because of his impact outside of boxing, I think that's what would give him the nudge over Tiger Woods, in my opinion.
Tiger Woods, to me, he's bought the masses, and he's made it cool for Black people to even think that way of being golfers. Right. The guy that I think is going to get more credit as he gets older, to me, and more refined to me, is going to be LeBron James and what he's done for his community. I don't think we've ever had a bigger social activist. Maybe there are 1 or 2, but LeBron James takes on every imaginable topic, and people beat at LeBron James, and LeBron James went out and did something that we all can just admire. He went to Akron and went and built a school and told these people, these kids, if you graduate, you get a foot. Education, we all know education is the key. He said, I will give you a scholarship to go to college. I will fund that. And at the same time, I will give your parents placement for jobs. I can't, his impact on the world to me is just, and now the fact that he was a part owner of the Red Sox.
Yeah, that's
I mean, this dude,
still
man,
mind-boggling.
this dude right here, he is, let's just say the way we said in the neighborhood, he's the shit right now. He is the shit. I mean, we can, everybody wants to hate on him and all this stuff, but man, that brother has stepped into a realm.
I got beef with LeBron, but everything you're saying is true.
What's your beef with LeBron?
No. See, my beef with LeBron is strictly, sports related. I'm a Celtics fan, and we've known throughout the years, them years with the Cavs, the years with the Heat, and he went back to the Cavs. He beat down on the Celtics for years, so that's my personal beef with LeBron. But everything you're saying,
that he beat up on your team.
Yes, but that's my personal beef.
Mike beats LeBron.
No, it's because of the rivalry that we've had with him as a Boston sports fan. The rivalry, like people don't like Kobe because he's a Laker. People have that issue just because of sports wise. But everything they do outside of sports, like everything you just listed about LeBron, I completely respect. Is huge. It's huge that as an athlete, he's doing all those things outside of his sport that is really staking his claim that he'll be remembered as a great basketball player. But like you said, he has a school where he's giving out scholarships and whatnot to students. Like that's something that you'll be etched in the record books for different reasons. So I give LeBron that credit.
All of this in the prime of his career. Like he's doing all this in his prime, and you said it. If LeBron says one thing, it's gonna make headlines. If LeBron is going to support a presidential candidate, that makes headline. If he speaks up on the shooting, that's gonna make headlines. Like his impact on this world is something that we're gonna look back into 10, 15 years back when he was playing, be like, oh my goodness, no player has ever come close.
And the thing with LeBron is, with some athletes, I feel as if some athletes maybe have a fear of not wanting to speak up because they don't want their image to be tarnished in any type of way. You think
Michael Jordan?
Yeah, Michael Jordan, even Tom Brady. As much as I like Brady, he's these are athletes who reach a certain level in their sport, but when it comes to political views and things happening in the world in which they live in, they try to stay squeaky clean because they don't want to lean a certain type of way and lose their following. So I give credit to LeBron a lot for being able to take a stand with how he feels in many situations.
You look at Michael Jordan, and you can say that LeBron influenced him to start to speak up about things and start making statements, because Michael was never saying anything until maybe 4 years ago, and that's off of the player movement that LeBron really started to captivate.
I think you guys are right, but and you can't hold it against a guy if he doesn't want to speak up on issues, because that's not for everybody.
That's true.
That's not for everybody. Everybody who's out there, that's not for them. I think the biggest thing that we look at is, and we look at Kobe. As great as Kobe was, it took Kobe's passing to make him that much more relevant in the minds of other people about his greatness and how he influenced, all these other kids. And I remember talking to Jason Tatum and even to Jaylen Brown after when Kobe passed that day. And I was in New Orleans and walked up to Jaylen and said, man, tough day today. And he looked at me and he was like this is the one time I felt like reaching out, hugging a brother, when he said to me, he said, man, he said, I know. He said, I never met Kobe. I said, what? You never met Kobe? He said, no, I never met Kobe. I never got a chance. It was like my heart went out to him because it was somebody that he admired, but he had never got a chance to be around. And we look at these great people that we've lost, like the Kobe Bryants and people like that, and we just go, man, it's something. This time, this COVID, the hatred that welled up in people during the backlash of, I say, when Barack Obama was around, because when Donald Trump came in, it just seemed like it was time to it was time to unleash all the stuff, the negative shit I've been thinking about. It's time for me to unleash it, because I got the president saying whatever he wanted to say about, about African people come from shithole countries, or Puerto Rico, or this, that, and the other. And it just became, it became easy to say. And it wasn't that way when Barack Obama was around. It was like, he was the coolest dude, man.
Yeah.
That I think that I could imagine ever meeting. The way he conducted himself. And as a person of color, and I'm sure you guys felt this way, we were so proud of Barack Obama because there was never a scandal around him.
Nope.
This man carried himself. If he's the first president, first black president, man, he handled himself so well. The way he spoke, the way he interacted with people, he made it. He as a black man, he brought me to tears when he won, because I never thought that I would see a black man become the president of the United States in my life. I thought it might happen with my kids or my kids' kids, but I didn't think it would happen during my lifetime. And I absolutely applaud everything he did.
Absolutely. 100%. And I mean, we're sitting here talking about, Barack and LeBron and different great things that these guys have done, which brings me to asking a question that we want to pose to you. That question that I have in mind, you asked us about our Mount Rushmore of athletes. Mm-hmm. I want to pose a question as, if you had a chance to hold a dinner, right? And you can invite 4 athletes, past or present, just to sit down and have dinner with and have a conversation with, who would your 4 athletes be?
That's really good. I hadn't thought about that. That's good. I think one would be Wilt Chamberlain. Mm. And I would also want, Wilt Chamberlain would be one. Jackie Robinson will be another one, because what he did crossing that color barrier, I'd want to know all the insults and all the times he had to bite his tongue. Jack Johnson, the famous black boxer, was back during that time that they essentially arrested because he took a white woman across state lines. Let me see, one more athlete that I would enjoy. Kareem, because he is so diverse, and he's somebody that I know, and I've always wanted to get the chance to talk to him, because he came during the era of when it was really about civil rights and all those things that happened. So I think those would be the 4 people that I think that I would want to have. Wilt Chamberlain, because he's just so flamboyant. The 20,000 women that he slept in. I just like to hear him say that. Just
a confirmation.
I mean, like that dude said, I slept with 20,000 women. You're like, 20,000?
That's crazy.
Maybe you mean, man, they asked him one time, maybe you mean 2,500. He said, no, 20,000.
That's how do you keep count?
He's like, you in a room. I mean, you in a small city. You slept with everybody in the city. Everybody. Do you remember anything about it at all?
Oh man.
And he was a smooth criminal, because not anything crazy came out of Wilt Chamberlain, really. So shout out to Will. You've entered the hot seat, Cedric. So Mike just asked you a question. I got one last question for you as well. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give Mike and I moving on in this career path, as well as young African Americans in the business?
You know what we just said, keeping it on the 100. Being able to look yourself